Rome didn't fall in 476. It didn't collapse. It didn't disappear. It just moved. And that might not sound like it matters, until you realize this isn't just a story about Rome. It's about something much closer. While the West burned, while emperors vanished, while Europe fractured into kingdoms, Rome was still there, alive, governing, minting coins, commanding armies, for another 1,000 years. So here's the real question, not why it eventually ended, but how it survived that long. And the answer is going to force you to ask something you've probably never asked about your own life. What's actually you, and what's just the version of you that circumstances built? We are taught a very clean story. 476 AD, last Roman emperor in the West deposed. Empire over. Simple, neat, memorable. And completely misleading, because in the East, the empire didn't end. It didn't even slow down. From Constantinople, Roman emperors kept ruling. Roman law, Roman coins, Roman armies, Roman title. And for centuries, everyone called them Romo. So why don't we? Why do we quietly rename the survivor? The Byzantine Empire. That name didn't exist at the time. It was invented later by Western historians who needed Rome to have ended. So their story of history made sense. Which means the question is no longer just historical. It's this. When something keeps changing to survive, at what point does it stop being itself? That's not a question about Rome. That's a question about every system that has ever tried to last. His name was Heraclius, 610 AD. He sailed into Constantinople harbor with a fleet, overthrew a tyrant emperor, took the throne. He was not inheriting power. He was inheriting a catastrophe. Persian armies had taken Jerusalem. They had taken Egypt, the empire's breadbasket. They had pushed to the walls of Constantinople itself. The treasury was empty. The army was shattered. The provinces were in chaos. And the worst part? It wasn't just a military crisis. For a Christian empire, losing Jerusalem, losing the true cross, that was a theological collapse. God had abandoned Rome. Heraclius spent 6 years in the field, personally led campaigns, restructured the army, pulled funding directly from the church. And in 628 AD, he broke the Persian Empire, recovered the lost territories, brought the true cross back to Jerusalem. The empire had come back from the dead. But here's what that near-death experience actually taught him. Not strategy, not military tactics, something deeper. He came back understanding a distinction that most leaders never make. There are 2 layers to any system. The first layer is identity, the core, the essential function, the reason the system exists. The second layer is configuration. Everything built around that core. The language, the structure, the borders, the habits, the rituals. Most leaders treat both layers as sacred. Heraclius realized only one of them is. So he did something that shocked the establishment. He changed the official language from Latin to Greek. He dropped the title Augustus, used by every Roman emperor for 600 years, and replaced it with the Greek word, basileus. To the traditionalists, this was betrayal. You're not Roman anymore. But Heraclius had a different question. What are we, actually? And more importantly, does clinging to that answer help us survive? Fight as Rome and die. Change Rome and survive. Let's go deeper, because this decision didn't come from nowhere. Psychology. Heraclius was not a Roman by instinct. He was born in Cappadocia, raised in Carthage. His native language was Greek. When he looked at the Latin traditions of the imperial court, he wasn't looking at his heritage. He was looking at inherited furniture. Someone else's identity bolted onto a system he now had to run. That distance gave him something most emperors didn't have. He could see the configuration for what it was, a set of choices made by people long dead for a world that no longer existed. Incentives. Heraclius had no political base inside Constantinople. He arrived as an outsider. He took power by force. He had no dynasty behind him, no senatorial allies, no old Roman families owing him favors, which meant the traditional Roman identity wasn't protecting him. It was actually a liability. The Latin-speaking aristocracy was not his constituency. The Greek-speaking population of the East, the soldiers, the farmers, the clergy, those were his people. Changing the configuration wasn't just philosophically correct. It was politically rational. System failure. And then there was the evidence in front of him. The old system had already failed, not once, repeatedly. The centralized Latin imperial model, built for Mediterranean dominance, was too slow, too expensive, too brittle for the threats coming from the East. Every attempt to maintain the old configuration had accelerated the collapse. Heraclius didn't need a theory. He had a track record. The system failure was the proof. So he made the cut. Core functions preserved. Legacy code deleted. New language, new title, new administrative structure. Same law, same throne, same civilization. This was not abandonment. This was precision. And then the framework was tested. In the 630s, a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula, the Rashidun Caliphate, moving with a speed and conviction nothing in the empire's experience had prepared it for. This wasn't Persia. With Persia, there were rules, centuries of patterns, predictability. The Arab armies were a completely different system, motivated by something beyond territory, fast, mobile, adaptable. In 636, at the Battle of Yarmouk, the main Byzantine army in the region was destroyed. Syria fell. Palestine fell. In 641, Egypt fell. In less than a decade, the empire lost roughly half its population and its primary source of tax revenue. By every conventional measure, this was fatal. At this point, the Roman Empire wasn't losing. It was already dead. It just hadn't stopped moving yet. But here's what actually happened. The core held. Constantinople didn't fall. Anatolia didn't fall. The Aegean didn't fall. And this is where the identity versus configuration framework gets validated in real time. Syria, Palestine, Egypt, those were configuration, territory, revenue, strategic depth, catastrophic to lose. But not the identity. The identity was the capital, the law, the throne, the civilizational claim. Those survived. The framework worked, not as theory, but as a survival mechanism. Under maximum pressure, a system that knows what it is, can lose half its body, and still keep its core alive. Now let's extend the framework. Because identity versus configuration doesn't just explain how Byzantium survived. It explains how most systems die. Justinian, a century before Heraclius, he tried to restore the full Roman Empire, reconquered North Africa, reconquered Italy, pushed into Spain. The map looked right, but the economics didn't work. Overextension, financial collapse, the Justinianic plague at the worst possible moment. When Justinian died in 565, he left an empire that looked bigger on the map and was structurally weaker in every way that mattered. Within a generation, most of his reconquests were lost again. Here's the framework diagnosis. Justinian correctly identified the identity: Roman civilization, Roman law, Roman authority. But he confused the configuration for the identity. He thought being Rome meant looking like Rome: the borders, the map, the Latin titles, the old territories. So he spent everything restoring the picture, and the picture cost him the frame. Now extend the framework further. This pattern doesn't stop in the 6th century. Every organization that has ever failed has failed this way. The company that keeps its original product line, while the market moves on, because the product is who we are. The institution that maintains its old structure, while its function becomes irrelevant because the structure is our tradition. The person who holds on to an identity built for a version of the world that no longer exists, because letting go feels like dying. In every case, the configuration was mistaken for the identity. In every case, the system destroyed itself, trying to preserve something that was never the core to begin with. And in every case, the question that could have saved them was the same question Heraclius asked: what is actually us? And what is just the shape circumstances gave us? Here's the reversal. We assume that the systems which last are the ones that hold on the hardest. That survival is about resistance, about defending what you have, about refusing to change. Byzantium breaks that assumption completely. The empire that survived 1,000 years was not the one that held everything. It was the one that let go, strategically, precisely, without sentiment, of everything that wasn't the core. After the Arab invasions, the empire replaced its entire provincial system with the theme structure: decentralized, faster, more adaptive. It didn't survive because it was strong. It survived because it was willing to become smaller, leaner, and more honest about what it actually was. The strongest systems are not the most rigid. They are the most accurate. Here is what Byzantine history actually teaches. Most systems don't die when they are attacked. They die when they can no longer tell the difference between their identity and their configuration. Identity is the core, the essential function, the reason the system exists. Configuration is everything built around it: the language, the territory, the structure, the habits. Configuration must change as the environment changes. Identity must stay coherent. Heraclius made the cut correctly. Change the configuration completely. Preserve the identity absolutely. New language, new title, new structure, new territory, same law, same throne, same civilization. That precision is not a historical curiosity. It is the operating principle of every system that outlasts its era. The ones that last are not the ones that stay pure. They are the ones that know this part is negotiable, this part is not. Most systems don't die because they change too much. They die because they refuse to change enough. And here is the question I want to leave you with right now. In whatever system you're part of, do you actually know which layer you're defending? The Byzantine Empire survived the 7th century. It survived the Arab invasions, the Bulgarian Wars, the Macedonian crisis. It even survived 1204, when the Fourth Crusade, launched by Christian allies, sacked Constantinople and carved the empire into pieces. It came back from that too. But every system has a final pressure test, and eventually the world changed faster than any single system could follow. That's the next episode. History has patterns, and we just decoded it. This was Historhythm. See you in the next video.